If you are currently using Autopay to clear your full credit card balance on the due date every month, you probably think you're being financially smart. You're avoiding interest, staying on track, and checking off the right boxes. But the truth is, you are falling straight into a trap. Most people in the US and Europe are paying their credit card bills on the wrong day, and it is quietly destroying their FICO score even if they have never missed a single payment in their entire lives. The system wants you to focus on the due date. Why? Because the automatic setup on your banking app is engineered to protect the bank's money, not to push you into the elite 1% of credit scores. If you want a perfect score, you have to look beyond the surface. You have to understand that there is a second, far more critical deadline hiding on your financial dashboard, the statement closing date. This is the exact moment the credit bureaus actually judge you. Tonight, I'm going to show you how to stop letting the algorithm work against you. You will learn how to take control of your reporting timeline and hack the system using a highly effective, incredibly simple movement of cash. It is a dual payment framework known internationally as the 15-3 rule. Once you see how the math actually works, your approach to plastic will change forever. Let's get into the mechanics. To beat the system, you first need to look at what actually drives your FICO score. It's not an arbitrary grade, it's a highly calculated mathematical puzzle. Two massive pieces dominate this puzzle. The first is your payment history, which makes up 35% of your total score. This is simple. Did you pay on time? The second piece, the one that catches millions of people off guard, is your amounts owed, better known as your credit utilization ratio, or CUR. This single metric controls a staggering 30% of your score. So what exactly is your credit utilization ratio? In plain English, it's the percentage of your available credit that you are actively using at any given moment. Let's break that down with a real-world example. Say you have a credit card with a total limit of $10,000. Over the course of the month, you use that card to pay for a vacation, some groceries, and normal living expenses, racking up a balance of $4,000. Financially, your calculation says you are fine because you have the cash sitting in your checking account ready to pay it off. But mathematically, to the FICO algorithm, your utilization ratio is exactly 40%. Here's where the hidden trap springs shut. Any utilization ratio above 30% is an immediate red flag that drags your credit score down. But you might think, why does that matter if I clear the entire $4,000 on the due date next month? It matters because of a massive technical gap in how banks share data. Your credit card issuer does not report your balance to the three major bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, on your due date. They don't care how clean your slate is on the day the bill is officially due. Instead, they take a snapshot of your account balance on a completely different day, your statement closing date. This is the exact moment the credit bureaus actually judge you. So back to our example. On the 17th of the month, your statement closing date, the bank runs its automated data sweep. It sees a $4,000 balance on a $10,000 limit. It immediately logs a 40% utilization rate and sends that heavy number straight to the credit bureaus. Your score drops by 20, 30, or even 40 points on the spot. It does not matter that 3 weeks later, on your due date, your autopay kicks in and brings your balance all the way down to zero. The damage is already done. The algorithm judged you based on the snapshot, and that snapshot showed you were heavily reliant on debt. Which leads us to an obvious, frustrating question. Why? Why do major financial institutions like Chase, Amex, or Bank of America constantly push you to turn on Autopay specifically for your due date? If it's keeping your credit score lower than it should be, why is it the default setting on every single banking app? Let's lift the veil and look at the actual operational logic behind the glass. The bank's primary objective is risk management. They want to ensure they get their money back on time so they can prevent delinquency and minimize their own bad debt ratios. Autopay on the due date achieves that perfectly for them. It keeps you safe from late fees and keeps them safe from losses. But here's the hard truth. The bank has absolutely zero obligation to maximize your credit score. They're not incentivized to help you look flawless so you can go to a competing lender and secure a rock-bottom interest rate on a home mortgage. If you want an elite credit score, you can't rely on the lazy set it and forget it settings provided by the app. You have to stop playing the bank's game and start playing the algorithm's game. You have to actively adjust your cash flow to match the reporting dates, not the payment dates.
And to do that, you need a precise blueprint to timing your payments perfectly. So, how do we actually beat the algorithm at its own game? We use a simple dual payment framework known as the 15-3 rule. This is not about spending less money. It is entirely about moving your cash flow on a smarter timeline to control what the credit bureaus see. Before we look at the two specific milestones, you need to find your actual target date. Stop looking at the giant, bold due date on the main dashboard of your Chase, Amex, or Bank of America app. That date is a distraction. Instead, open your mobile app, navigate to your statements, and download your latest monthly e-statement PDF. Look closely at the top right corner. You are searching for a specific line that reads Statement Closing Date or Opening Closing Date. Write that date down. That is your baseline. Everything we do from this moment on revolves around that specific day. Now let's break down the execution. Milestone number 1 happens exactly 15 days before your statement closing date. On this day, log into your banking app and make your first payment. You want to pay off exactly 50% of whatever your current balance is at that moment. Why? Because you are stopping your credit utilization ratio from building up too much momentum. By cutting the balance in half mid-cycle, you ensure that your rolling utilization never touches that dangerous 30% threshold where the algorithm starts penalizing your FICO score. Milestone number 2 happens exactly 3 days before that same statement closing date. This is the critical cleanup phase. Log back into your app and wipe out almost everything that remains. But here's a technical detail. Do not pay it down to a flat 0. If the credit bureaus see a 0% utilization rate month after month, the algorithm sometimes assumes your card is completely inactive, which can stagnate your score. Instead, leave a tiny, negligible balance, somewhere between 1 and 5% of your total limit. If your limit is $10,000, leave about $100 on the card. When day 0 arrives, your statement closing date, the bank runs its snapshot. What do they see? They see an active account with a flawless single-digit utilization rate. That beautiful low-risk number gets reported to Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Your score gets a massive green light. Then, a few weeks later, when your official due date finally rolls around, your remaining automated payment cleans up that final 1% balance. You pay 0 interest, and your credit profile stays fully optimized. Now, whenever I explain this framework to people, someone always raises their hand and asks the exact same question. Wait, if I pay off my balance early like that, won't I lose out on my rewards, points, or cash back? This is a massive psychological block, and it's a complete misunderstanding of how credit card perks actually work. Let's clear this up right now. Credit card companies calculate your rewards based on your gross spending volume, the total amount of transactions you make during the billing cycle. If you swipe your card for $4,000 worth of flights and hotels, you have earned the points for a $4,000 spend, period. The bank does not care if you pay that money back 15 days early, 3 days early, or on the final due date. The rewards are locked in the moment the transaction clears. By using the 15-3 rule, you're getting the absolute best of both worlds. You accumulate 100% of your travel points or cashback bonuses while keeping your utilization footprint completely invisible to the reporting bureaus. You get the perks, you maintain your liquidity, and your credit profile stays pristine. Think of it like a tech professional showing you a keyboard shortcut. It feels minor at first, but once you automate the habit, the compounding efficiency changes the entire system. You're no longer drifting along with the default settings the bank wants you to use. But what does this shift actually look like over a long timeline? Let's step away from the abstract rules and look at two people who did everything exactly the same way except for the date they hit the payment button. The financial gap between them might shock you. Let's look at how these numbers play out in real life, because abstract rules don't mean anything until they hit your bank account. Meet Alex and Ben. Both live in the suburbs, both earn a solid $90,000 a year, and both happen to have the exact same credit card with a $10,000 limit. One month, they both decide to do some minor home renovations. They both spend exactly $4,000 on materials. Their financial capacity is identical, but their execution is completely different. Alex relies on the standard system. He has his account set to auto-pay the statement balance on the official due date, which falls on the 9th of the following month. He forgets about it, assuming his perfect payment history will protect him. But on the 17th, the statement closing date, the bank takes its snapshot. Alex's balance is $4,000. The bank logs a 40% credit utilization ratio and reports it.
Even though Alex clears the full balance on the 9th, the algorithm penalizes his high utilization. His FICO score drops from a great 750 down to a mediocre 715. Ben, on the other hand, uses the 15-3 rule. 15 days before the 17th, he makes a manual payment of $2,000. 3 days before the 17th, he pays another $1,800, leaving a tiny $200 balance on the card. On the statement closing date, the bank takes the exact same snapshot, but this time they see a utilization ratio of just 2%. The bank reports an incredibly low-risk consumer to the bureaus. Ben's FICO score shoots up from 750 to an elite 790. For a couple of years, this looks like a minor game of point chasing, but fast forward to today. Both Alex and Ben find their dream homes, and both apply for the exact same $400,000 fixed-rate mortgage. This is where the trap turns into a massive financial penalty. Because Ben has an elite score of 790, lenders hand him the absolute prime-tier interest rate. Alex, with his 715 score, still qualifies for the loan, but he's bumped down to a subprime tier with a higher interest rate. That tiny percentage gap looks small on paper, but when you compound that difference over a standard 30-year mortgage, Alex will end up paying nearly $60,000 more in pure interest than Ben for the exact same house. Let that sink in. $60,000 vanished into thin air. Alex didn't lose that money because he was irresponsible. He didn't lose it because he was broke or missed payments. He lost it simply because he paid his bill on the day the bank told him to, rather than the day the algorithm was watching. This brings us to the core issue, the behavioral psychology of modern banking. The entire financial industry is shifting toward a philosophy of frictionless convenience. Every app update is designed to make money management passive. We mistake this convenience for financial security. The reality? This institutionalized laziness is highly profitable for the system. When you use default features like standard autopay, you are letting the app keep you in a state of financial passivity. The system doesn't want you to be financially illiterate, they just want you compliant enough to stay within an average tier. An average tier score means you still pay your bills, but you aren't optimized enough to demand the absolute lowest interest rates on the market. They profit from your average habits. If you want to transition from a consumer who simply survives the system to an investor who optimizes it, you have to break the habit of passive compliance. You have to actively intervene in the timeline of your own data. So knowing how heavily this simple timing adjustment impacts your real-world net worth, what is the next step to ensuring your financial profile stays optimized permanently? Let's tie all of this together into an actionable routine you can start tonight. At the end of the day, you need to realize one thing. Your credit score is not a moral report card. It does not measure whether you were a good person, a hard worker, or a responsible citizen. It is nothing more than a mathematical puzzle. It is a system built on raw algorithms, rigid dates, and data snapshots. And in any game governed by strict rules, the winners are never the passive participants who just follow the defaults. The winners are always the ones who understand how the mechanics work and know exactly how to move their pieces before the system even takes notice. By applying the 15-3 rule, you take back the control that automated banking apps quietly try to smooth over. Stop letting your data work against your net worth. Tonight, when you open up your online banking portal, don't just glance at the total balance and log out. Take a moment, look deeper into the statement breakdown, and find that elusive statement closing date. What date is your card currently reporting on? Are you still letting your default Autopay trap your score on the due date? Drop your current setup in the comments below. And more importantly, if you commit to testing the 15-3 rule over your next 2 billing cycles, make sure to save this video and come back to report exactly how many points your FICO score jumped. Stop playing by their default schedule. Take control of your timeline, optimize your data, and I will see you in the next breakdown.